right, good morning again, and thank you all so much for the coverage that you have been giving to our residents and our visitors during this time as we prepare and watch for Hurricane Delta. I'm joined this morning by my Director of Homeland Security, Colin Arnold, Deputy CAO Ramsey Green of Infrastructure, and of course our Superintendent of the Sewage and Water Board, Mr. Bob Turner. We're here, one, to just give you an update as we just completed the mayor's briefing. Delta will most likely make landfall as a Category 3. However, we know that we have now been put on a tropical storm warning list, meaning the city of New Orleans. Tropical storm watch for the city of New Orleans. The tropical storm force winds are possible as early as Thursday, leading into Friday morning. Thursday evening, again, possibly Friday morning. Currently, the city of New Orleans is outside of the cone, but the impact will still be significant, and we're planning for that as well. While there is still, some level of uncertainty in terms of the exact intensity and the impacts, we know that we're facing life-threatening, again, storm surge outside of the levee protection system. Damaging winds is something that we're looking for as well. This will, really have an impact on our trees, our vegetation. Heavy rainfall, always something that we're not conscious of, but also wanting to be, as risk averse as possible. So being proactive, catch basins and the like, and possible tornadoes. This is something that, again, we have to be mindful of and watch for. We stand ready, and let me tell you, aligned with our local, state, and federal partners every step of the way. A unified command is in place. We want our residents to, one, just be vigilant, make sure that you have a plan to be prepared, look out for yourselves, your neighbors, as well as notify the city through 311 if there are any catch basins that you want us to focus on sooner rather than later. We clean catch basins all year long, but of course wanting to double down when we're in the midst of a storm coming our way. And so we need you to help us with that. Also, remember to text Delta to 888-777 for real-time updates from the city of New Orleans. I know we have over 100,000 in that database right now. We gained about an additional 100 over the past 24 hours. So people are listening, and we just thank you for that. I'm going to ask now Colin Arnold to come forth and to give you more updates associated with Tropical Storm Delta. But again, we do expect her to make landfall as a hurricane, possibly Category 3. Colin?
Yes, ma'am. Good morning, everyone. The Office of Homeland Security Emergency Preparedness continues to monitor Hurricane Delta upstairs in the city's EOC. Obviously, there's a lot of time with this still to look at this. There's still uncertainty. It appears that it's coming over the north shore of the Yucatan Peninsula right now and actually entering the Gulf. All this time we've been watching this as a Caribbean hurricane. Now we're going to see what happens in the Gulf. And what we've seen with past hurricanes that tend to de-intensify, obviously this was a monster yesterday, it started de-intensifying before it hit the Yucatan and has dropped down to a Cat 2, it will re-intensify in the Gulf, and sometimes those hurricanes tend to spread out a little bit. And we are on the east side of this, even though, as the mayor mentioned, the latest advisory, we're slightly out of the cone. Just be careful with the cone. It's called the cone of error for a reason. It can go either way, left or right. And so we just have to be very careful right now, primarily due to rainfall, the potential for high winds, and really storm surge. And that right now, we are under a storm surge watch, basically from almost the entire Texas, Louisiana, and Mississippi and Alabama coast to Mobile. And so predicting right now about 4 to 6 feet of storm surge. So what we would say to our areas outside levee protection, Venetian Isles, Irish Bayou, Lake Catherine. This would be a time for a voluntary evacuation right now. If you want to consider what's best for your family and your situation out there, this would be a time to start thinking about that. Now, if that changes and we start getting higher numbers, we'll work very closely with the Flood Protection Authority East when they start talking about the potential for closing gates. They're not talking about that right now because the 4 to 6 foot mark does not really reach that sill level that they would use to close that gate. But 4 to 6 feet for us means water over the roads, potentially water in the neighborhoods to the point where your cars may flood out in that area. So that could start as early as tomorrow. The majority of the impacts of this hurricane will be on Friday, and so you have time. I would say that we've been communicating with our state partners and the Red Cross, with our guests and our friends from Southwest Louisiana that are currently evacuated here from Hurricane Laura. That number today is down to about 5,600. People are leaving and going back. That creates a little bit of a concern. We just want to make sure people know that if you're driving back between Southeast and Southwest Louisiana right now, be very careful. Particularly, we would probably recommend you don't do that on Friday when this starts coming ashore. You just want to be very, very careful with that movement along I-10 between our western state and eastern state. It's just kind of common sense, but we want to make sure everybody knows there's a hurricane that is coming that is going to affect the entire coast of Louisiana and could affect New Orleans as well. In conjunction with the City Council, or in cooperation with the City Council today, we did actually 6 sandbag locations. They're about wrapping up now. You may be able to get some sand at the locations. There was the Arthur Monday Center on the West Bank, Dryads YMCA in Central City, Milne Recreation Center in Gentilly, Maria Goretti Church on Crowder in the east, the Mid-City Library on Canal Street, and then also Desire and Law in the Desire area. You may still be able to get some sand there. I heard it went really well today, and we appreciate everyone's cooperation and patience with getting sandbags, and we know that that's important to people. We, to be clear, are watching this very, very closely still. We're not out of the woods by any means as far as effects from this storm. We anticipate a full activation of the EOC on Friday morning. That may change based on what we see through the rest of today. Again, we've been very lucky thus far with 5 other tropical storm activations. This is the 6th, and I would just ask people to really pay attention. Text Delta to 888-777. Follow us at NOAA Ready, and you can find out about all these things at ready.noaa.gov.
Thank you, Colin.
I would like to pass it on to Ramsey Green, our Deputy CAO of Infrastructure.
Thank you so much. Sorry. Thank you so much, Colin. Thank you, Mayor. Doing these frequently now. The city is working very closely with Sewage and Water Board to ensure our assets are coordinated and we're all working well together. All DPW maintenance trucks, most often we'd have folks out there filling potholes, using asphalt, etc. Everybody is doing catch basins and drain lines right now. Look out for them. They're wearing PPE. They're on the sides of the roads. Additionally, everybody who has got an active building permit, if you're a private builder, you should be getting a communication tomorrow from Safety and Permits saying clean up your site, but please don't wait for that email. Clean up your job site, remove anything that's out there that could blow away and cause problems for your neighbor, for our drainage system, etc. All of our construction managers for our massive rebuilding programs are notifying their contractors to secure their sites. If you are working a site where PPE continue, we are in the middle of a pandemic, and you have to acknowledge that as you're on a construction site. Our inspectors are out there looking at both our public sector job sites and checking on our private ones. So make sure if you're a private developer, you're doing that stuff the right way, or a builder. Parking, neutral ground, permissible after 6 p.m. today. Drive slowly when you go into those neutral grounds. They're beautiful. Please keep them that way. And then when you drive out, the soil, grass may be a little wet. Drive slowly. Don't block any streetcar tracks as well. We have a number of crews out from the Parks and Parkways Department. If you see loose branches, call 311 now, report it now. We want to do that now. We want to clear anything that could fly around. On the sanitation side, no changes to trash delivery until we say otherwise. go to NOLA ready, we will report that. But the dump remains open, trash delivery remains as normal. Coordinating well with Entergy, Bob's team is coordinating well with Entergy. RTA is normal until an update comes from NOLA ready. Same with the airport, but everybody's prepared, working hard, and checking our generators, keeping all our assets safe. I'm going to turn it over to Bob for details on sewage and water board. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ramsey.
I don't know what I did with my face mask. I'm sorry.
I don't know.
All right, don't touch it, please. Got it. All right, we're good.
All right, thanks, Ramsey. So the first thing I'm going to do is give you a little bit of an update on the status of our equipment. Again, as of yesterday, we had 98 of 99 pumps, major drainage pumps that are in service and available for use. The one pump that is out is at drainage pump station number 7. It serves a portion of the Lakeview area. Today, we began the testing of that pump under load. I expect some news back on that sometime later on this afternoon. We still fully expect to have that pump back in service before Friday, and perhaps a little bit sooner than that. Underpass pump stations, all of those are in pretty good shape. We have one pump out of all those stations. That's at Press Street. Luckily at that location, there are 3 pumps at that pump station. So we don't really anticipate any problems there. I will say this, however, if we do get really heavy rains, regardless of the pump situation at the underpasses, there's always the possibility that we could get flooding there. Just want to remind people that as you approach those underpasses and heavy rain has occurred, be careful. Don't drive into a flooded underpass. It's very dangerous, and more than likely you'll have to have somebody rescue you if that's the case. So please stay out of those. And there are some alarms, ahead of those underpasses to let you know if the water's too high. As far as power is concerned, turbines 1, 3, 4, and 6 are available for service. Turbine 3, however, as usual, is emergency use only. All 5 of our EMDs are operational, and we intend to use those if the rain is heavy. We know that's a little bit of an inconvenience to the neighborhood in that area. We certainly apologize for that, but at the present time, that is one of our go-to pieces of equipment, and we'll have to utilize that equipment to provide the power that's needed to drive those pumps, particularly in the old part of the city. Something that I spoke a little bit about yesterday was the new feeder that we have in place so that we can use turbine generator number 6 with our number 1 frequency changer at the Carrollton Frequency Changer facility. It allows us to better utilize the capabilities of that turbine and provide a redundant backup system to Entergy, because normally Entergy supplies the Citrus side of power for that facility. So we're excited about that. We did some extensive testing of that feeder today, as well as the operating procedures that we put in place to make sure that we can safely do the required switching to utilize that feeder. That exercise went very well, so that is in service as of today. As far as staffing is concerned, if the situation arises where we have to man all of our stations, we have staff that can do that on standby. So all of our essential personnel have been notified that to be on standby, and we are developing rosters to take care of manning those facilities, even the unmanned facilities, if the need arises. We are conducting daily emergency operations and preparedness meetings. We started that yesterday. That's ongoing. We've been coordinating with our federal, state, and local partners and communicating with them since yesterday. We've spoken to the East Flood Authority regarding the PCCP, or those new permanent pump stations out at the lake. We have requested some minor modifications to their operating procedures on that to give us a little bit of extra cushion with our pumping ability. And they have agreed to that, so we're in pretty good shape there as well. And I would like to say regarding social media, you can follow us on social media. It's at SWB New Orleans. And we were trying to get the status updated almost in real time as to what the equipment status is and any issues that we find out about across the system. So have a look at that and make use of that as well.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Bob, and, you know, Bob is, and I'm excited too about the feeder, the improvements there, and that's actually tied to our hard work delivering fair share. And Bob mentioned on yesterday, it's been a long time coming, many years without that level of redundancy, fair share, paying off. At any rate, Ms. Latanya, any questions and answers?
Yes, ma'am, Mayor. WGNO, WDSU.
Do you anticipate any evacuations? I know you all are taking it hour by hour, and what would be the game plan? Correct me if I'm wrong, I heard 5,600 additional
Evacuees,
are still
which,
here.
and yesterday, you know, was a little bit higher than that, so just from yesterday and today, it went down significantly in regards to those evacuees. There, right now, given the conditions and the pattern that we're being forewarned about, it does not call for an evacuation of Orleans specific. What it does, it gives us great, you know, pause as it relates to our areas outside of our levee protection system. And so when Mr. Arnold mentioned a voluntary evacuation for our lower lying areas, it really is responding to that storm surge that we need to be prepared for.
So no evacuations expected currently?
No evacuations are expected other than potentially our lower lying areas.
WWL.
For Bob, you were talking about some changes to the gates of the outfall canals. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Oh yeah, come back up, Bob. That's proactive.
Thank you, Mayor. Sure, and so, particularly with the advent of the potential issue of the pump at James Pump Station 7, we contacted the flood authority and asked them if they could modify their operating procedures, close those gates a little bit sooner than they normally would. And what that does for us, a couple of things. One is, we have the ability to keep the level of the water in that outfall canal to a lower level than the lake. And by doing that, we actually have increased pumping capacity. So the lower that we can keep that water in the canal, the more water we can pump through our existing pumps.
So have they shut those gates now, or in the process of them? Or?
No, the trigger point is 3 feet, elevation 3 feet in the lake. So 3 feet above sea level. And normally, I think the lake is around 1.5 to 2 feet. Today, I think it was just under 2 feet.
Thank you.
WWNO. The Advocate.
I have a couple, but they're hopefully quick. Right now, what are y'all looking at in terms of rainfall totals? Since y'all mentioned the concerns about evacuees going back, where do things stand in terms of their ability to stay in the hotels, or if they've left the hotels already, to come back and get shelter here, since obviously this is looking like it's...
Now, being in midstream, that's a little tricky, but we'll get to that. But your first part was
rainfall totals.
rainfall totals, and golly, you can get me straight, but I know we were given anywhere between 4 to 8. But again, you know, looking at it closely and not, it could be a total 8 over that entire event, or of course it could be much more rainfall in a shorter period of time. So we'll just have to continue to monitor that. And as it relates to our evacuees, just staying in constant communication with our partners that are here on the ground, Red Cross and the like. We know that the contractual obligations are in place, you know, for those hoteliers that are servicing our evacuation population right now. Anything to add on that, Colin?
So just one thing about the rainfall, last advisory was actually 2 to 4 inches
Oh, less
over
than
the
that.
period. However, I think we should stick with 4 to 8 at this point, and you know they always weather service likes to say locally amounts double. So let's think about a heavy period of rainfall over the next few days, certainly starting Thursday and continuing through Saturday, and potentially even I saw Sunday there's a chance of rain as well. So it's one of those things that we just really have to watch. And again, a training band, especially on the east side of this, if it broadens out like I discussed earlier, it could potentially give us some more issues with rainfall. And then the reason we wanted to really keep the communication tight with the Red Cross and the state is for exactly what you're asking, which is we want to make sure typically when it's been identified by the state that a person is ready to go home, meaning that their house has power and that it's habitable, they give a 48-hour notice to go ahead and start exiting the hotel. Those are, to my knowledge, those are on hold right now, and I know that the state has stopped doing any of the bus transportation between here and Southwest Louisiana, at least through the end of the week, until we get through this. And your question earlier, a lot of these 5,600 have vehicles, and so if there was something that had to happen, which we do not anticipate at this point, they would leave like anyone else with a vehicle. They would drive away, and so. But again, that's not anticipated right now. But that kind of brings up the point of there is a somewhat of a look and leave going on right now, and we all remember that from 2005. People are going and checking on their stuff on a regular basis and coming back. And I would just say that the reason why I gave that caution earlier is, that's fine maybe today and potentially tomorrow. I certainly wouldn't be doing that on Friday.
Have you gotten any guidance from GOSEP on, let's say someone went back to Lake Charles yesterday, now they're back in the crosshairs and might feel they need shelter again. What happens to new evacuees or?
Well, we've been discussing that. Obviously, there is some more capacity on that side of the state now, but as we have been doing since Laura made landfall, they can work through the state through 211 and come back to the city. And obviously, we went from 12,000 capacity now to 5,600. Some of those hotels now have emptied out. There's been consolidation. I'm not saying it would be an automatic that you would come back to New Orleans. That is not the right thing to do. Call 211. And then from there, you'd be routed to another area of the state, potentially back here for, but I mean, obviously we're looking at that through not knowing exactly what's going to happen through the end of the week.
WGNO followed by WWNO.
Will the city be providing another round of sandbags tomorrow?
No.
Okay.
No, the distribution of sand for sandbags, that was executed this morning. And so that's what we will provide during this particular event.
WWNO.
In terms of the, what's the expected wind range right now? Like how gusty is it gonna get? And can you just describe like maybe Friday, Saturday, what we can?
Well, I know that the wind has decreased. We were kind of, warning was over 150 miles an hour, and then it went down to 105, but now we're hovering anywhere over 39 to 75. He gave us a pretty wide range, but we just have to remain just watchful. Anything to add?
So as of the 10 a.m. Advisory, and again, it went a little west, which is good for us, but I again caution that we've got to watch this thing all the way in. We had about a 1 in 10 chance of the New Orleans area of experiencing hurricane force winds, 75 miles an hour or greater. We had about a 6 in 10 chance, so 60% chance of tropical storm force winds, which is 39 miles per hour for an extended period of time. I've been looking at the hourlies that we're looking at through Thursday and Friday. Thursday, you're going to start seeing winds up in the 20s to 25 mile an hour range at times. Particularly Friday and Friday evening and overnight. Right now it's looking like, and again, this is the forecast, 40 mile an hour, 42 mile an hour sustained winds with gusts up to 50, 52 miles an hour. So again, that can increase, it can decrease, but as a rule of thumb, or just as what we're seeing with the forecast right now, is that Friday evening to Friday night overnight period into Saturday morning is going to be that chance where we're going to get the rain and the wind. And again, that surge could start tomorrow, because that is generated by winds that are way out there and continuing. So that's why we're particularly looking at our areas outside living protection.
Thank you, Colin.
Yes, ma'am.
And then that made me think about RTA and think about Mr. Ed with his email. Wanting to know when would RTA stop. And so RTA, based on what we know about this storm, we expect operations to continue, but of course, anything 35 miles per hour over in terms of when we will have to decommission service. But right now, plan for it to remain in operation. Anything else? Okay, thank you all again so much.